Today we're gonna do my week 4 Pickems, my Pickems last week, and we'll get into that. Went pretty well. But before we dive into that, first let's talk about the best and worst round of last week. And for the best round, it's very easy. It's going to Fluorescent.
To heaven, this could be a mistake. It certainly is, as Fluorescent rounds the corner first. Ruxic, that's 11-1 now with his first death on the board. See if Na'Vi can recover without him, because he has been the one to take it across the line in the majority of these rounds. And there's a lot of presence from Apex, especially with this ult coming through. That's confirming that the hit is on its way. They know about Avova. The TP coming out of the ult up top's been heard. Avova and Batu dealt with. They're ready for Fluorescent to be around here. Even still, what was that?
30 seconds left.
I can't believe I just saw that. Should replay that, maybe even now. Screw the round. 2v2. Shao, 32 HP. Tom, all thanks to Fluorescent, this is winnable.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to walk anywhere near. Don't even go near a wall that Fluorescent is looking at, because you might just fall gun barrel spotted. A fourth kill already for Fluorescent, and she will take over this round completely.
Now, for the worst round of the week, there was a lot of options, and Furia and BBL, and maybe even some of Paper X as well, really did test, where exactly I was going to go with this. Eventually, I did decide to go for BBL because they did get 12-0'd, and I think that does, deserve a mention here as well. But choosing between the BBL rounds was also pretty tough. Eventually, I went for this one.
They'll get massive value from is their ultimates like Dimensional Drift, Armageddon, Nightfall, Null Command, and Cosmic Divide. And that's what we're seeing right now. We need to see BBL convert from an ult used.
Trying to do. Eleven has TP'd into the backside with the sound cut from the Nightfall, but now they know he needs to hit the shot and he can't. Patatek finishes it off. It's between him and, well, Paddy with a stash that end up doing it.
Yeah, and the spike elsewhere. How does BBL even try and get that one back? Like, they're just exploring the map, trying to find a way into the back lines and catch the players off guard, take duels, etc.
Liquid know where the gap lies, trying to plug that space exactly, and Serial will do so.
Okay, so with that out of the way, now let's talk about my Pickems for the upcoming week and why I have chosen the teams I have. First, let's start with EMEA, where I am currently on 50 points, which is towards the very top. And last week in EMEA, I only got one wrong. I've only got 2 wrong so far the entire split, and that was Fnatic beating Team Vitality, which, I don't think was a necessarily bad pick. This week, we got Koi versus BBL. And I'm going BBL despite them, featuring on the worst round of the week and almost getting 13-0'd. I still think that they're better than Koi overall, so I'll go with BBL. Giants versus Na'Vi. I do think the Giants so far have played 2 pretty tough games, right? I think they've played, Vitality and they played last week. Giants played Heretics. So they played 2 pretty tough games, and whilst I don't think they've looked very good, I'm still not really a Na'Vi believer. They did beat Apex, and they looked a bit better, I suppose, in that game, Na'Vi, but I still feel like Giants might actually be a slightly better team and have just had harder games. Team Liquid versus Foot. This one I did debate for quite a while. I do think this is a real coin flip of a game. The reasons for Foot, and I will pick Foot, but the reason that I went for Foot, I think it's just a slight player quality I think they have the advantage in. But I do think that Liquid definitely could upset them. I would be shocked if this was a 2-0. I think my concern for Foot is that they still are wary to playing some pretty strange comps, and sometimes those comps aren't that good. So I am a bit wary about this pick, but I will go for Foot. Team Vitality versus Team Heretics. This one as well, we guaranteed on Plant Chat. Don't feel good about it at all. I've given it a bit more thought, and I still think I'm going with Vitality. I just think that for Heretics, whilst we've seen it in parts of them coming back, we just haven't seen enough of it. And I think that Vitality still are a better team, and I think personally they will wake up after their Fnatic loss. And then we got Apex versus Fnatic, easy Fnatic pick. Fnatic are back, as we talked about yesterday. And Calming Core against Gentlemates, perhaps a pretty tough game to call, most might say, but I am going to go Gentlemates because I think that they've looked very good. I think Gentlemates in their loss to Foot actually showed me quite a lot. Yeah, the third map wasn't great, but I think overall across the entire split so far, they've looked like a really pretty good team. Okay, on to China, where me constantly picking Wolves isn't having the desired effect. But this week they should win, hopefully, against All Gamers. I'll lock that one in right now for you if you want. JDG versus Jilai Glue. Unfortunately, JDG are awful, so Sideshow's Jilai should be able to beat them. DRG versus Thai Glue. You would hope that DRG could beat Thai Glue. The thing is, that's the thing with DRG. You never really know how Vukshu's back is feeling week to week, but I will go for them, of course, over Thai Glue. Billy versus Trace. I think that Billy are just a better team. Trace lost last week to Jilai as well, as you can see just there. Trace have been struggling this split. They seem to have regressed, you know, kind of what we saw during Masters Bangkok seems to have kind of carried on for them. Tech versus Nova. I definitely have to go Nova for this one, of course. And then EDG versus FPX. FPX, after starting pretty promisingly, have had a bit of a slide, so I am going to go for EDG in this last week of the group stage. On to Americas, and right now in Americas, I'm on 120 points, which is okay. You know, I would call that a decent amount of points overall. If we take a look at how I did last week, 5 out of the 6 correct. Again, so not a bad week. The only one I got wrong was my Loud punt, which really could have been right as well, right? Like Loud, you know, had a big lead on map 2. That could have been a 2-0 for Loud, and I would have felt very good about where I was. This week, Americas is so easy to predict. One of them will be an upset, but which one? I honestly have no idea. Probably the most likely upset, I would say, might even be 2G. Maybe it's NRG over MIBR, but then it's maybe it's probably between these two. The other 4, I just don't see. How would you pick Lev against G2? How could you pick Fury against Cloud9? How could you pick Loud versus Sen? And how could you pick EG versus Crew? I don't see how you could ever pick those teams. And even these, I think, are pretty heavy favorites as well. Like, probably there will be one game that goes the other way, but I think I just take a 5 out of 6 and just pick the very obvious choices. The game in Americas this week, not very good at all. Could even maybe all be 2-0s, right? This literally could all be 2-0s to the favored team. And then finally we have Pacific, where last week I got it all correct. So on Pacific, that again puts me on 120 points. You know, a decent showing, I would say, you know, kind of in the top-ish group there with, yeah, getting it all right in week 3, pretty good. So on to week 4 and Nongshim versus Team Secret. I'm taking a punt here. I did it on Plat Chat. I'm going Team Secret. The reason I'm going Team Secret is because I think whilst they haven't been great, they have shown, I think, some signs of growth. Right, from kind of early on, yeah, the loss to Zeta wasn't great, but against T1, I think I saw some things that's like, if they can play like that, I think they can beat a Nongshim. Nongshim, you know, obviously, they've kind of gone all in on this Neon stuff. I still don't love some of the comps they're playing. Their Lotus comp in particular, I don't think is very good at all. So I think there's weaknesses there for Team Secret to maybe exploit if they're ready for Danby's Neon. DRX versus Boom, I am still going to go DRX. For Boom, this is like, if they win this game, it's like, oh, they're the real deal. I'm not quite sure. I'm just not quite there yet with Boom. Right now, I see them as the 3rd best team in Pacific. I would pick them over anyone but DRX and maybe T1. RRQ versus T1. I've gone for another crazy punt. I've gone for RRQ over T1. Again, I said on Plat Chat, I feel like one of these two will be right and one of them will be wrong. If they're both right, then that would be pretty crazy. But the reason I've gone RRQ over T1 is because T1 I don't think have looked convincing throughout this entire split, right? Yes, they beat Nongshim 2-0. They really shouldn't have done. They only beat Team Secret 2-1. They generally lose a map in almost every game they play, right? Their icebox isn't very good. And so far they've played like Secret and Zeta, right? Like these are the easier games. In fact, you would say they've played perhaps their 3 easiest game in their group, right? The RRQ, and they've got Talon next week as well. Those are going to be the 2 hardest games they're going to play. And I don't think they've looked convincing in the games that they've played against the weaker opponents. So that's why I'm going RRQ, who I think have continued to kind of grow and look fairly decent, right? Yeah, they lost to Nongshim in week 1. Their split attack side here was really rough, but week 2 they were pretty good against Talon. Week 3 here against Zeta, they were fairly decent as well. So yeah, I'm gonna go RRQ, a team that I think is continuing to improve, versus a team in T1 that I think is actually not playing that great right now, and does have other gears to go to. But I'm just kind of hoping that they, you know, stay in kind of, you know, 3rd gear or 2nd gear, wherever they are right now, and RRQ can take advantage of that. Gen G versus Global. Elevated, my boy, is now the head coach of Global. but unfortunately he's been given a pretty rough ride here going against a DRX and then into a somewhat resurgent Gen G, right? This was the first game that I think you look at Gen G and go, okay, they actually look pretty good. So I'm going to go for Gen G for that reason. Talon versus Zeta. Again, I think this is a reasonable punt if you wanted to go Zeta here as well, because I do also think that Zeta haven't looked as bad. I think the problem is the aim diff here for Talon. I think Talon will just have the aimers over Zeta, and unless Depp goes absolutely insane, I don't see how they can come back and win 2 maps with an aim difference there. And then DFM versus Paper Rex. As lost as Paper Rex look, and I do think that they look giga lost, I think DFM, they have run into perhaps the one team who looks more lost than them, right? In terms of like everything is falling apart. So yeah, I have to go for Paper Rex. So those are the week 4 pick'ems. Of course, I'll be back tomorrow watching some EMEA. Come and join on the streams, and then we got more and more and more Valorant to watch.